You're watching the Sports Central Showdown.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to our inaugural Sports Central Showdown. We thought we would do this, debate topics that are interesting, that are relevant, that are timely, and what's more timely than is LeBron James the GOAT, right before maybe his last run as a Laker in the playoffs. And here to debate this topic, two of my favorites, Metzker, ESPN Plus, also at Sports Central, Alex Hutton of the Sporting Tribune, also at Sports Central. These guys make our shows go throughout the week and on the weekends. And gentlemen, this is a very lively topic. Some may say it's a tired topic, but I think it's very relevant because we could be looking at maybe the last run at LeBron in purple and gold. So, Alex, let me just have you kick this thing off, man. Is LeBron James the GOAT?
No, he is not, Chris, and I'll explain why. Because when it comes to the GOAT, the greatest basketball player of all time, there is only one option, that is Mr. Michael Jeffrey Jordan. When you compare him to LeBron, 2 more titles, 2 more finals MVPs, 1 more regular season MVP, 3 more all-defensive teams, 1 defensive player of the year, something LeBron never did, has 9 more scoring titles. That is essentially the career resume of Kevin Durant with more tacked onto it. The gap between them is huge. LeBron is a great player. He's one of the all-time best, and certainly, a lot of the arguments around him revolve around the longevity. But when you look at how much Michael Jordan accomplished in a shorter career, I think that actually strengthens his case ultimately in the long run. And I think when you're talking about the GOAT, the greatest of all time, I think that goes beyond just who was better at basketball, who was more accomplished at basketball. I think you have to examine the cultural impact. I think the edge there goes to Michael Jordan as well, with his revolution in sneaker culture, the fact the word Jordans is now so associated with sneakers and with Nike and with everything that came with that. The Jumpman logo, his commercials, the worldwide impact of Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls, unmatched in NBA history. So I think you give Jordan a pretty significant edge over LeBron James.
Significant edge. All right, Graham, something tells me that you may have a different take on this.
I do, Chris. I think LeBron James is the greatest basketball player of all time. And I don't want to turn this into a speed run of the showdown, because really, if we're talking about a guy that's 6'9", 250 pounds with the greatest basketball brain on his head, what are we even talking about? That sounds like the greatest basketball player to me. But Alex, you're right. It does go past, just all the records that LeBron has. Of course, we got to talk about longevity, the most games played, the most points scored. I also think that LeBron plays in a greater era today. When you look at the teams that he lost to, yes, in the finals, but the great players that he overcame in finals as well, like Steph Curry, like Kevin Durant, I think that the bar is so much higher in the NBA today that we'll never see someone again get the 2 more titles that Jordan has over LeBron. So in the way that you say, Alex, that his shortened career makes it even better, I think that the way that LeBron has continued to set these records in such a tough era makes him even better. And the last thing I want to say to start this out is about the expectations, because if Jordan is the most culturally relevant athlete or basketball player, at least I think LeBron is the most scrutinized athlete that we've ever seen, be it because of the way that media is now, but he's still the youngest player ever selected first overall. He was named the chosen one before he ever touched the NBA. We changed the goalposts so much for him, for LeBron, and he just continues to impress. When you look at LeBron combining all this stuff with his playoff numbers as well, he would have passed all these records that we're getting now years ago. He became the all-time leading playoff scorer almost 9 years ago at age 32. He's now scored more than 2,300 points in the playoffs, more than Michael Jordan. That's an entire Isaiah Thomas playoff career right there. So because of the longevity, because they're playing in a greater era, because of the expectations that LeBron has continued to surpass, I think he's the GOAT.
Alex, speak to the longevity aspect of this, man, because LeBron's just not hanging on at 41. The longevity thing is a very tough thing to kind of combat at this point, because now he will be counted on to be the guy once again at 41 in the playoffs in 2026.
Yeah, no, certainly the longevity argument is his. That one aspect of this debate, I will concede LeBron has the edge on. But I would argue that some of that longevity comes from chasing the greatness of Michael Jordan, trying to get those 2 additional championships and not being able to get there, trying to get that one more MVP and not getting there. Years ago, he had a very famous quote, "I'm chasing the ghost who played in Chicago." I think that has defined a lot of the back half of his career, is trying to go after Michael Jordan and everything he accomplished in such a short amount of time. And obviously, Jordan's career was a little bit more stunted with the 2 retirements and coming back a couple of times. But the standard he was able to set in 15 seasons, really 13, because the 2 seasons with the Wizards at the end were a little bit different. But the amount he was able to do in that time was incredible. I will take that peak over what LeBron has been doing, and it's obviously an incredible career over these last 23 years. But you talk about the competition in the era of basketball that we're in. I think both of them would have thrived in any era because they're both just such incredible players. But you look at the competition they faced during Michael Jordan's career. 34 of the top 75, the NBA top 75 that came out a few years ago, 34 of those players were active during Michael Jordan's career, 23 during LeBron's career. Playoff record versus 50-win teams: Jordan was 20-7, LeBron 13-12. Playoff record versus 60-win teams: Jordan was 7-2, LeBron 3-5. 5 teams ever have beaten 2 60-win teams in a single playoff run. Jordan led 3 of them. And Jordan actually has won more series against 60-win teams than LeBron, Kobe, and Tim Duncan combined. Even when adjusting for, LeBron had a couple weird seasons with the lockout in 2012, the bubble in 2020. Even when adjusting for those records for an 82-game season, LeBron has never beaten 3 50-win teams in a playoff run. Jordan did it 4 times. So yes, we're certainly in a great era of basketball right now, but overall, I would argue that Jordan actually faced the tougher competition. LeBron spent so much of his career in the Eastern Conference when it was objectively a weaker conference than the Western Conference. And the 4-6 record in the finals, I would argue that what you can point out about that is, well, if you lost to the Western Conference winner, that means if you were playing in the Western Conference at the time, maybe you wouldn't have made the finals in the first place. So I think Jordan had to face the tougher challenges to those 6 championships.
Graham, you can take this anywhere you want, but I kind of want to kick it off this way. LeBron has been with the Lakers for 7 years now. LeBron, I would have to go maybe 7, 8 deep before I would consider LeBron a Laker GOAT. So if he's not a Laker GOAT and he's been with the purple and gold for as long as he has, how is he the GOAT straight up?
Well, Chris, I think that the Lakers organization was in such a better place than the other organizations that LeBron or Jordan, for that matter, ever had a chance to play for, with the Cavs both times and, of course, the Heat forming that team. But these are not storied franchises like the Lakers. And it's always going to be tricky with the way that it went for LeBron in LA. And I still think that so many Lakers fans will never truly appreciate what it was until we're a few years back from now and seeing the way that LeBron really lifted so many of these mediocre Lakers teams. We've seen Kobe, and Kobe is my personal favorite player. We saw him put up unreal numbers on Lakers teams that missed the playoffs. And that's just not something that LeBron really does. So I would say that's why he's not the GOAT of the Lakers. They've got so many legends of the game. And when you talk about how the bubble and COVID warped that, the Luka trade, it's all a very complicated thing talking about LeBron in LA. But I think he's undoubtedly the best player in the other 2 franchises where he's done a lot of his work. And being the 7th or 8th, Chris, we're gonna have to have our own showdown about that one. There's a lot of great
all right. So
Lakers.
hey, let me just say this, right? Irvin Magic Johnson, Kobe Bean Bryant, Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Jerry West. You can't put LeBron James over Pau Gasol as a Laker and what he meant to the purple and gold. If we're just talking about purple and gold careers, I'm not debating. I'm just the moderator here. But you'd have a hard time, I think, convincing a lot of Laker fans that LeBron is their GOAT over Pau Gasol, number 16 in your program from Spain, Brant.
I love Pau. Don't make me do this to Pau, Chris. But even if he's a better Laker, no rational human being that watches the basketball go through the net will say that Pau is better than LeBron James, as much as I love him. And I think that LeBron's, as his entire career, as we've said, his Lakers career especially, will be scrutinized in an incredibly unfair way. when really he was doing so much in the playoffs. The fact that he got this team to the Western Conference Finals, he won a ring in what I say is the toughest environment to win one in NBA history in the bubble. I just think that it's tough to go against the purple and gold legends, but LeBron's certainly the greatest Heat player of all time, certainly the greatest Cav player of all time. And anywhere in that top 10 you want to put him on the Lakers, all those guys are above the guys that Jordan is over on the Bulls.
This is why this is such a ridiculous and agonizing topic, is because when we're talking about GOATs, I'm talking about it from just purple and gold glasses, what fans would say is their GOAT. And although, yeah, I completely understand that, like, LeBron and Power, two different players, and LeBron is in his own stratosphere as a player, but this is where this topic can get debated and go back and forth. So with that, I'm going to give you guys a 24-second shot clock. Make your final case, Alex. Then Graham will do the same. And then how about we just have the people decide?
The greatest of all time in the game of basketball is Mr. Michael Jordan, whose lead over LeBron is literally a Hall of Fame career better. When you add in the cultural impact, it's not even close. People act like it's this close debate, and it's not. When it comes to the GOAT of basketball, Michael Jordan stands alone.
Wow, a couple seconds left on the shot clock, too. It's done.
One thing I want to say before we go is I feel like Jordan fans will never see a world where Jordan is not the greatest player of all time. The great Dwayne Wade said, as great as LeBron is, there will be another. And I think that if you're not open to LeBron being one of, if not the greatest of all time, then you may be stuck watching 1990s basketball for the rest of your time. That's not a fate I want. LeBron is my GOAT.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, gentlemen, I appreciate both sides of the argument. I hope we're doing this in a decade, and maybe Luka is mentioned as one of the greatest of all time. Graham Metzker, Alex Hutton, fantastic job on the inaugural Sports Central Show.
You're watching the Sports Central Showdown.